Women played an incredibly important role in the further development of Champagne in the 19th century. Several of these Champagne ladies were actually young widows who stepped up to fill their husbands' leadership roles in their family champagne houses. These ladies had no prior business experience, but they would not accept defeat and went on to make monumental impacts on the entire industry for the better. Their perseverance is very inspirational. They became very distinguished and esteemed business leaders. We're going to visit the historic cellars of Veuve Clicquot with Fabienne Huttaux and Genviève Dejoie to learn more about this venerated champagne house and one of these very special champagne ladies who, along with her cellar master, solved an extremely serious problem that had always plagued the champagne makers. We are here with Fabienne Huttaux, the historian of Veuve Clicquot Champagne, and we are in their incredible cellars. Will you kindly tell us about these barrels?
All the barrels have a name. This is the name of a village, Verzenay, here Bouzy. It's a very important place for the house because this is the beginning of the history of Veuve Clicquot in Bouzy village.
And they grow Pinot Noir here?
Exactly.
Okay.
Pinot Noir, Vertu, Auger, Ménil, white grapes, again Bouzy, and the Clocolin. Le Clocolin, it's the name of the parcel. Very important parcel for the house. Because Madame Clicquot bought with a lot of intelligence. She was very intuitive, and she bought the very good parcel. And all those parcels today are in the Grand Cru de Champagne.
Very good.
Yeah.
And this is Ailly?
Ailly.
And what does Goutte d'Or mean?
Goutte d'Or, goutte drop of gold.
Drop of gold?
Drop of gold.
Fantastic. I like that.
As our wine.
Oh, great. When did Champagne Clicquot begin?
And the history of the house began in 1772 when Philippe Clicquot has found the house, the wine house, Champagne Clicquot. François was the son of the founder, and he got married with Barbe Nicole Ponsardin in 1798. At that time, it was difficult because of the revolution. So they were married in a cellar, wine cellar, and then François became the associate with his father for the business.
And they were married in a wine cellar because after the revolution, the church was completely disbanded, and they had to be married.
Yes,
okay.
It was difficult. So it's a good news for the couple because in a wine cellar.
That's right.
For the future.
Perfect beginning.
Yeah. Yes, beginning was perfect, but after it was a bit sad because François died. He had a big fever, and because there were no antibiotics.
Yes.
No. So Madame Clicquot became a widow.
At a very young age, correct?
Very
she was under
young.
30, 27 or something?
27.
27.
And she had a little daughter. So it was very difficult for her. But her father-in-law didn't want anymore to rule the business because he was very
He was sad.
Old, and no more energy. But Madame Clicquot had energy. And she decided to take over.
Take over? Yeah, she stepped up into the lead role. And
she was very audacious because at that time, at the beginning of the 19th century, it's
for a woman
a great
to do that,
challenge.
To come to be the head of a company was quite a unique thing at that time period, for sure.
Yeah.
She's very dynamic.
Yeah, very. And she was also intelligent, and she began with another associate who knew the wine, all the question about the wine, and she learned a lot with him, and after she became the only one at the head of the house.
When Barbe Nicole first took over, what was one of the things she did?
She changed the name of the house, and the house was now Veuve, Widow Clicquot, Ponsardin.
Yes, Veuve actually means widow.
Yeah.
And that was a very esteemed title back then that was very well respected.
Yeah. And Ponsardin is the name of her father.
Sediment had always been a problem in the bottles for a very, very long time. And Barbe Nicole did something very special.
Yes, it was really a big problem for all the merchants. And Madame Clicquot looked for a solution, and she found a new way to put the bottle on a table. It was in 1816, and she invented the remuage. It's a technique to shake the bottle on a table, and it was very important. And all the champagne decided to have this method.
She transformed the entire champagne industry with this invention of Remuage, and she went down into her cellars and cut holes into a table, is that correct? And she slowly, over a course of a month, the time they take, they slowly rotate the bottle so that it becomes more vertical. So all the sediment that was in the bottle slowly slides down toward the neck. And her contribution is everlasting, and we are thankful to her.
Well, thanks for her, because after the wine
Clear and beautiful.
And ready to go all over the world.
All over the world.
Yeah.
When was the first shipment to the United States?
The first shipment to the United States was in 1782 to Philadelphia.
I'm with Genviève Dejoie. She's the corporate communications manager at Champagne Clicquot. This Red Cross, it's very interesting to be down in a cellar.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and it shows that here is a place full of history. So it's full of emotion too. And this, here you have, it's written abri, which means shelter. And people used to come here during the war, the First World War, to be quiet and to get a first help, escape from the bomb. And it used to be a nursery here, and some people used to stay for a while. As Reims has been, well, it's been terrific here in Reims during this first war and during second too. But this is especially from the first one.
I have a very important question. Who can call themselves champagne?
This is a very good question and very important for people working here. We are what we call an appellation contrôlée, AOC, which means that well, it's a kind of guarantee that all the grapes we use have been harvested and vinified here in the Champagne area. So what we also used to say is il n'est de Champagne que de la Champagne, means you can only find champagne here, and it's a very small area.
And that's denoted by the French government. There's
Exactly.
a specific line around the region that
Exactly.
when you're outside you can't call yourself champagne, and when you're inside you can.
Exactly.
And that goes throughout the world. Now, isn't there something like a piece of paper or a contract that people would sign, and some signed and some didn't?
Of course, yes, it's a really legal matter. And it's not only a question of grapes, it's also a question of making the wine. It has to be made here.
Genviève, will you tell us about this very distinctive color?
Yes, of course, you're right, it's very distinctive. It's the symbol of the house, and it's a color that has been registered by our juridical team, so it means no one should copy it. It's really specific to the house. And it's a long story because it dated from 1877. And in the past, people used to drink wines. Well, the tastes of people were different, and the people used to love more sweet things. And then, with the years, new taste came, and it was specific for the English and American people who've been asking us for more dry wine. And so we had it became necessary to have a distinctive label. Mm-hmm. You can see it here, and that's this yellow label, which was specific for American people. So you've got here United States, New York, and it's written dry, which means it's a drier wine, less sweet than this one. That we used to have before.
Which was white label. So this was brand new and very different.
Exactly.
Definitely
at the beginning,
out.
It was especially specific for American and English people, and now it's really a flagship.
We love it.
And the anchor, it has been the choice of Veuve Clicquot, the founder of the house. And he decided to use this anchor as the symbol of the house, and we still use it today. We'd like to introduce you to La Grande Dame. So this is the one. She's our cuvée de prestige, and I even say she because it has been created in memory of Madame Clicquot, who used to be called La Grande Dame de la Champagne.
Which means the Queen of Champagne.
Yes, First Lady, or that's it. It has been created in 1972. And at the time, it was also to celebrate a very special occasion because it was exactly 200 years after the foundation of the house. And it's really our cuvée de prestige, so it's a vintage wine. So here we have the cuvée 1998. And it's really full of Pinot Noir, like 70% of Pinot Noir. So it's really typical of Veuve Clicquot style. And one particularity is that it's a wine that has been aging very long, for 9 years on lease in our cellars. So it's really very special wine, and you can also get it and keep it for a long time. People usually don't know that you can champagne wine can be kept for a long time, especially this kind of wine, this cuvée de prestige.
What's a good pairing with La Grande Dame?
Oh, it has to be something very, very special. So I would tell lobsters.
Lobster?
For example, yes.
Terrific. These are the 3 grape varietals that are in Champagne: Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and Pinot Meunier. The Pinot Noir brings in structure and a strong taste. The Chardonnay brings in lightness, finesse, and elegance. And the Pinot Meunier is used to round out the other two. This three-dimensional plan of the Champagne region is fantastic. It really shows the area very well. And up here we have Reims, Epernay, and Vertus. Over here is Paris. This is the Marne River and the valley, and over there is Germany.
So as you said, we've got Reims here. This is the Montagne de Reims. So here people are very proud of it because it's a huge mountain, 200 meters high. And this is Côte des Blancs. What is interesting here is that what is dark orange is what we call Grand Cru. So it's the best quality. So we've been talking of the main areas in Champagne. What is very important too is what we call the villages. Some of them are very, very famous. So on the north, you've got Verzenay, Verzy, which is very famous for Veuve Clicquot, Villers-Marmerie. Then going south, you've got Bouzy, so it's very special for Pinot Noir and also for La Grande Dame, of course. Very close to the river, you've got Haï. And then going to the south, you've got Avise, Auger, and Vertus.
There are records of champagne shipments to America in the 18th century. George Washington was one of the recipients, but for the most part, America was an untapped market for champagne makers. Most considered it too far to do business there and thought it to be an unsophisticated, wild country. There was one maker who saw the States differently and viewed it as a land of opportunity. Charles Heidsieck was the first head of a champagne house to visit America. It was in 1852. He was a big hit with Americans who liked his style and loved his wine. He was a major success in the States, but he suddenly lost his fortune due to the Civil War, as half of his assets were tied up in shipments he had sent to the South, but had not yet been paid for. His agent in New York did not pay him because of a new law that absolved debtors of their obligations. Its intent was to deny the South payment for cotton the North had purchased, but many took advantage of this law and didn't pay any bills they owed. Charles Heidsieck was unexpectedly in serious financial trouble. He went to Mobile to try to directly collect the money he was owed. He chose to accept cotton for payment, but both of his shipments were sunk by the Union Army and completely lost. He had nothing left in the States, so he began to go back home to Reims. Before he departed from Mobile to New Orleans, where he was to catch a ship to Europe, he agreed to carry a diplomatic pouch from the French Consul General there to the Consul General in New Orleans. Unfortunately, his paddle wheel ship was seized by the Union Army and he was charged with spying when the diplomatic pouch was found to contain offers by French companies to make uniforms for the Confederates. Charles had no idea what he was carrying, so he was completely shocked to be thrown into Fort Jackson prison by Union Army General Butler. He was refused visitors and suffered in that prison, where many died from yellow fever, including his cellmate. He was close to death by the time of his release 7 months later, which was actually granted by President Abraham Lincoln as soon as he heard of the, quote, Heidsieck incident. When Charles finally reached home in Reims, his champagne business was completely bankrupt. But this story is not yet over. Stay tuned as we meet Christian Holthausen to learn how Charles gained a new fortune and relaunched his champagne house. Christian, will you kindly tell us about the beginnings of your champagne house?
Absolutely. Charles Heidsieck was founded in 1851. Of course, Charles Heidsieck was the descendant of Florent Louis Heidsieck, who founded the original House of Heidsieck back in 1785. In that year, he had the great honor of presenting one of his cuvées to Queen Marie Antoinette at Versailles, and within a few years, the name Heidsieck was known around the world. When Florent Louis Heidsieck passed away, his three nephews carved the house up into three separate parts, and one of his nephews, Charles-Henri Heidsieck, was actually the father of Charles Camille, and he's most famous for traveling to Russia on a white stallion with three cases of champagne, really pioneering into Russia. And then his son Charles Camille, who founded the house in 1851, he was the first owner of a champagne house to set foot on American soil.
Yes.
He traveled to New York a couple of years after founding the house and really saw the potential of the U.S. market. An interesting fact is, of course, he spent a lot of his time in New Orleans. I think probably because they spoke French and it was easy for him there. But right before the Civil War broke out, he was selling 500,000 bottles a year to the population of New Orleans, which at that time was only 360,000 people. To contextualize that, we currently produce less than 1 million bottles for the entire world. So he was very, very well entrenched in the United States. This is the Place Royale in Reims, where Charles Heidsieck founded his house in 1851, right in the center of town. And you'll notice just behind is the famous Cathedral of Reims, where every single French monarch was crowned, and certainly the symbol of the Champagne region.
How old was Charles when he first came to America?
It was 2 years after he founded the house, so he would have been 32 years old. He was really something of a pioneer, and was really beloved by everyone he came in contact with. He was quite young, quite handsome, quite athletic, a
tall.
good sportsman, very tall as well, such as you. And he actually traveled up and down the eastern seaboard promoting champagne wherever he went, and the Americans couldn't pronounce Heidsieck, so everyone called him Champagne Charlie, which is the nickname that has stuck. Of course, in 1863, George Leyburn, the English lyricist, wrote the song Champagne Charlie about him. And of course, we have our beautiful, mythic Champagne Charlie here today, named in honor of the founder. Another interesting fact about Charles Heidsieck is that a large percentage of his business was in the South when the Civil War broke out. And his agent actually in New York, there was a bit of a problem because they declared a moratorium on collecting debts from the South. So his agent was not able to pay him. Many years later, the brother of the agent actually repaid him with a third of the rights to the city of Denver, which of course when it had been acquired was worth nothing, but by the time Charles Heidsieck received a third of the deeds, it was one of the most prosperous cities in the West. So he did own part of Denver for a very short amount of time.
That's unbelievable. It's almost a story too good to be true, but it did happen.
Absolutely. He was very popular in the United States, to be sure. So this is a photograph of Robert Falcon Scott, who of course was the first explorer to travel to the South Pole in 1910. And actually they brought along with them cases of Charles Heidsieck. After discovering the South Pole, unfortunately, Mr. Scott did not make his way back, and in 1965 they actually found an entire case of Charles Heidsieck that had been literally chilling since 1910, a couple of kilometers from the hut. This is a label from the 1952 Charles Heidsieck vintage, and you'll see on the top that Charles Heidsieck was indeed the purveyor to the late King George VI. You'll also notice on the bottom of the label the Comet. This is a symbol of good luck for the Champenois. 1811 was the year of the Comet, and it was considered to be one of the greatest vintages of champagne of all time. Many champagne houses, Charles Heidsieck among them, still have the Comet on their cork as a symbol of good luck.
Will you tell us where we are?
Certainly, we're in a very, very historic place. These are the Gallo-Roman crayères, or chalk cellars. which of course were dug out by the Gallo-Romans over 2,000 years ago. They were originally dug out just for the raw building material. Of course, back in those days, the Romans didn't realize that these caves would later be used to hold all these great bottles of champagne. Where we are right now is the Onothèque, or wine library, of Champagne Charles Heidsieck. This is one of the 47 chalk pits that the house owns.
I've seen a deal of gaiety throughout my noisy life. With all my grand accomplishments, I ne'er could get a wife. The thing I most excel in is the PRFG game. A noise all night, in bed all day, and swimming in champagne. For Champagne Charlie is my name. Champagne Charlie is my name. Good for any game at night, my boys. Good for any game at night, my boys. Champagne Charlie is my name. Champagne Charlie is my name. Good for any game at night, boys who'll come and join me in a spree.
So I wanted to give you an opportunity to taste this fantastic vintage. This is Champagne Charlie, 1985, of course named in honor of the founder. And the greatness of Champagne is really that each Champagne house owner made a significant contribution to Champagne in general. And one of Charles Heidsieck's greatest contributions was really this idea of prolonged periods of aging. The style of Charles Heidsieck is one that is aged a very long time. We're looking for richness, we're looking for complexity. This bottle was just disgorged about a year ago, so it's been sitting down here for over 20 years, so it's really something quite extraordinary. Mm-hmm. This is, of course, part of our wine library. But even our Brut Réserve, which is our regular Brut, is aged for 3.5 to 4 years. Our vintage is usually 7, and of course our Blanc de Millénaire at least 10, usually more. There you are.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So you really have a rich nose, lots of tertiary aromas, mushroom and undergrowth, truffle. And yet in the mouth it's extraordinarily fresh. This wine has a long life ahead of it, and it's already lived quite a long time. But as we like to say, it hasn't even taken on a single wrinkle yet. It's still quite fresh.